everyone. Welcome back to my loyal subscribers. I do this for you guys. And then also a warm hello to all our new viewers joining us today. We are thrilled to have you here, so thank you so much. In previous videos lately, we have been going through the ins and outs of that key root cause area of hair shedding and thinning of lifestyle. So understanding how our life, how we interact with our life really is affecting our ability to detoxify, reduce that inflammatory process, take burden off of our nutritional status, and to help us grow a beautiful, healthy, thick, strong, luscious hair. So today I kind of want to talk about what I like to call our toxic cup. Okay, so I have a cup here. So let's say that this cup is your toxic capacity for every single day, right? And on average, let's say unexpected toxins that we get exposed to because of our fellow human or just because of our own ignorance is about this much, right? So a little over half. This is just what you unexpectedly are getting exposed to. Now, if this is all you're getting exposed to, because your capacity is the full cup, your body can handle that pretty well, right? So you don't really start creating too much of an excessive inflammatory burden. You don't necessarily start running through all of your nutritional resources. The diet that you eat is more than likely going to be more than enough for your normal detoxification capabilities and abilities to grow healthy hair. Now, the problem comes when we start to fill this cup and then over time overflow, right? When we start to overflow this toxic cup, that's when it becomes more of a burden. So if we're overwhelming our body system, our liver, with external factors, whether it be from what you're putting on your body, what you're inhaling, what you're drinking, then we start to overwhelm the system. Now, this overwhelm state, this is where the body says, I can't handle this. So what your body sometimes does is starts to store these toxins away, especially if these toxins love fat. So if they're kind of fatty themselves, they'll start sticking around in your fat cells, and that can manifest as making it hard to lose weight. Or when you try to lose the weight and you do start to lose some of that, you feel really sluggish, you feel kind of crappy. That's because these toxins are being released and your body can't handle it. Or your body, which my body does this, when I get toxic, my body loves me so much, it just holds on to the fat and it won't let go, and I can't lose weight no matter what. So if that's you, you might be dealing with a toxic burden. So what do we do? Like, how do we start realizing what it is in our life that might be overflowing our toxic cup and making it harder for our body to keep a nice, calm system, calm immune system, and reduce that need for excessive intake of healthy foods and excessive intake of supplements, when we can just, kind of take off some of that burden or that phase zero of removing that exposure, right, from our four phases of detoxification. So what I want to talk to you about today is just different ways that we're getting exposed. Now, some of these ways you might be aware of. Some of these things we are, doing purposefully. And maybe we don't know that what we're doing is actually toxic. Some things we don't even realize are going on around us. Now, one of the most unexpected ways that we get exposed to toxins, I find, is in our living situations, right? Right now, I'm in a home office, and I have talked with so many people who, just like me, work from home. So they work from home, they eat from home, they sleep at home, they do everything at home, which is really nice. It's convenient, it saves gas money. For me, it's very stress-free. So it can be really great. But if you're living in a space that is a toxic hot box, that can be affecting your health. Now, I know in the context of these videos, we're talking about hair growth and how that affects us, but these toxins that we can get exposed to are actually doing more than just stopping you from growing healthy hair. They can also affect our mental health. They can affect our neurological health. They can affect our reproductive and hormonal health, our metabolism. Some of these are also carcinogens, increasing our risk of developing cancer. So in your living situation, in your home, even in your workplace, I want you to think about these different things that I'm going to start bringing up. Okay. So think about the building that you live in or work in. Is it brand new? Is it a few years old? Is it a couple decades old? These are questions you want to ask yourselves, because this is going to help you to understand which toxins might be affecting you, your health, and maybe the health of your family too. So, like, I remember when we first moved into our home, it's a brand new home, and you're thinking, oh my God, it's brand new, it's clean, there's no toxins. Well, all of those chemicals that are used to build new homes and new buildings are actually pretty toxic. And if you're spending an exuberant amount of time in that space, you're constantly breathing that in. Also, if your home is very old, typically I'm thinking more than 10 years old, you want to be thinking about water damage. Okay. Now, even though you might not have had an active leak that you can visually see, does it mean that maybe there's not some hidden water and humidity that is building up? This can create a system or a environment that is hospitable for mold. And mold, unfortunately, is pretty nasty. In my past work experiences, I did a lot of work with mold and the toxins that come from mold called mycotoxins. And I'll do a special video for you guys on that. But mold is very toxic to our bodies. On average, we can handle it. I mean, you can go outside and get mold exposed to it. But when it's concentrated in a closed system and you're spending lots of time there, these toxins start to accumulate and build up in our bodies, causing a lot of those dysfunctions that I kind of described before. Other things you want to think about: do you have copper pipes? Right? If your pipes are copper, then you might be getting an excess of this nutrients, which in your body in small amounts is great for you, but in high amounts can deplete other nutrients like zinc, which is important for hair growth. Also, if you have a very old home, let's say your home was built before the 80s, lead pipes, lead paint, these are things that you are going to be concerned about. And I know you're probably thinking, well, that was outlawed, like nobody's worried about that. I thought the same thing until I started seeing lead pop up on people's testing, whether that be urine, blood, or hair, even seeing that lead being a big issue for some individuals. So think about that if you have an older home. Also, if you live near a highway, like if you can see the highway from your front yard or your backyard, you're really close to large amounts of exhaust fumes and chemicals that come from exhaust of cars and trucks and whatnot affect you. So whether you're, driving an electric car or you never drive, if you're always living in a space that is near this highway, or maybe you have a commute that's, more than a few minutes away, you're regularly getting exposed to these toxins in your car. Now, like if you're like me and you live in a suburb, you probably have neighbors with beautiful lawns, right? I mean, everyone takes pride in their lawn. If you're like me, you like to walk outside or you love taking your kids to the park, you see those beautiful, lush fields of grass, and it's beautiful, right? But sometimes that beauty is because of pesticides, right? Pesticides, herbicides, that's what's keeping these lawns so green and pristine and no weeds to be found. And we're inhaling that. And that can do a lot to our neurologic system. It disrupts our gut microbiome. I could do a whole nother video just on pesticides and herbicides. So understanding that these are some of these unknown or lesser known exposures that maybe we can't really do anything about, at least not right away. Now, when it comes to things that we're doing, not necessarily like our living situation, but things that we're just doing in life, I always like to start with, what are we intaking, right? What are we drinking? A lot of us are like, oh, I drink water. All I drink is water. That's great. Where are you getting your water from? Are you getting it from the tap? Are you getting it from bottled water that you get from the store? These are things that we need to think about, because most tap waters that I've come across have some type of chemical in them, whether it be a herbicide, pesticide, or heavy metal, or a biological substance that's contaminating our water supply. If we're not filtering that, we're just constantly bringing that in. And that's all you drink, you're constantly bringing that in. So some people tell me, well, I just drink bottled water. Well, bottled water is great. It's very convenient. The issue with bottled water is that it's coming in plastic. Okay, and plastic has its own set of chemicals like styrenes, xylenes. These chemicals, again, are neurotoxins. They're messing with our endocrine system, and in some cases, again, they are overflowing that toxic cup, leading to more inflammation, more nutritional strain, and decreased growth of hair over time. And the big, kind of driving factor from eating or drinking out of plastic regularly or styrofoam regularly is that when it gets hot, those chemicals just leach into your water. I don't know if you've ever left like a bottle of water in the car on a hot day and come back and you're like, oh my God, I'm starving for some water. And you drink it and you're like, oh, that is a chemical taste. That is the epitome of heat, allowing that stuff to leach into the water that you're drinking. So then I have people tell me, well, I just keep it cold. Well, that's great that you keep it cold. The problem with that is you have to think about how long that water's actually been in that bottle, right? It was packaged in the, factory, and then it was maybe put into storage for however long, and then it was put on a truck, which I'm pretty sure is not climate controlled in most cases. Then it went to the distributor. Then the distributor distributed it out to the store that you bought it from. And then it may have stayed in a non-climate controlled environment. And then you finally bought it and took it home. So it's had a long journey before it ever enters your system, where these chemicals are just being allowed to leach into what you're intaking. So I do recommend, getting a filter or purchasing filtered water into your own dispenser so that you can just remove as much of that as possible. Now, other things that we do for like good health, dental procedures, right? A lot of us are getting, cavities and whatnot, and have our fair share of dental amalgams or fillings. Now, if you're getting them kind of like lately, you're probably getting the white filling, don't have that like black in your teeth anymore. But if you got the old school ones with the black, you're probably getting some heavy metals in your fillings. So the one we're most concerned about is mercury. And if you remember, like back in school when you did those little experiments and you had the cool thermometer with like the silver at the bottom, that's mercury. Mercury is a toxic metal that causes a lot of neurologic damage, and again just increases that toxic load that your body has to deal with. So if you can get those removed by a holistic dentist, they are out there, they do them one at a time, and they help you detox through that process. That can help remove this burden, because if they're staying in your mouth, they're actually leaching small bits of mercury throughout the lifetime that they're in your mouth, right? So kind of scary to think about, but that's just one additional way that we're adding the load to that toxic cup. Now, there is something interesting I was reading lately about braces. There's some reports that some like metal braces have been linked to nickel being elevated in those individuals, which is really kind of interesting. Nickel isn't one of the most common toxic metals that I see, but it is one that I find a lot of people have allergies to. So if you have an allergy to anything, but in this case nickel, again, that inflammatory process goes up. And those inflammatory meteors go all over the body, including your follicle. Also, your body has to throw in lots of nutrients like quercetin and vitamin C to go in and calm down that reaction that you're having. And then there's less available, again, for healthy hair growth. So how do we overdo nickel? So if you were like me and had braces, that's one way. Jewelry. So if you're wearing nickel-based jewelry, that can also increase your exposure. Certain teas, like rooibos tea, is pretty high in nickel. And then a lesser known way that I found out from doing just like years of toxic burden testing and interpretation, nut butters, smoothies or juices, and still cut oats, I find increase our risk of nickel. And you're probably like, well, how is that like increasing my risk of nickel exposure? And it's not the foods themselves, it's more anything that you get that is smooth, right? So a nut butter has been smoothed out with the blade, the smoothie has been smoothed out, the juice has been juiced out, usually using some type of blade, and this blade is made out of nickel. So it's like, oh. And then also steel cut oats. So the steel and the steel cut oats, that stainless steel is nickel. So it's something to think about. Not saying don't have these things, but just remember moderation, right? Other things that we do, so like our personal care products, right? What we're putting on our skin, really affects our toxic load and increases that toxic burden, overflowing our toxic cup. Some of the things that we do regularly are using aluminum based deodorants. The really great thing about that is there's a lot of options out there. Of aluminum free, like even your common brands that we've probably all been using since we were 12, now have aluminum free options, so that we can take that burden off of our bodies. Aluminum's a pretty nasty guy that we often see linked to kidney disease and disruption in your kidneys. So taking that off can be really great. Or if you're someone who sweats a lot, has that smell when you work out, limiting that use to only when you work out rather than every day. Certain sunscreens have chemical toxins in them that have been linked to cancer. So we want to stick with our mineral based. Mineral based is also great because it sits on top of your skin. You're not really absorbing that versus the more chemical based ones. And then some of our hair and skin products, we kind of talked about the phthalates and those parabens and formaldehyde, and this is just a very short list of chemicals that can be in there. So really reading labels and making sure that we're not, just putting things on our body as well. Certain hair dyes actually have lead and mercury. So heavy metals can be put onto our hair directly. And, as much as I know our hairstylists try not to get them on our scalps, they can get on your scalps, especially if you're getting your roots done. And being absorbed that way. And then one of my favorites is nail polish. I don't have them polished now, but when I do polish my toes and my nails, I always try to use a chemical-free, non-toxic, because that nail polish, that those chemicals again get in, they increase that risk of just overwhelming your detoxification pathways. If you ever go to the nail salon, you're probably like, why does my, person have a mask? And it might just because they don't want your foot juice on their face. But it also is blocking a lot of those chemicals that they're breathing in all day, every day. So it's important for us when we do go to wear those masks. And then again, limiting how much we're doing that, especially if you have certain health goals. If you're looking to get pregnant, if you're looking to grow healthy hair, limit how much you're going to the nail salon. I know for myself, I really only go maybe twice a year. And that's if I'm doing something special, like in a couple weeks, I'm going to a wedding in Jamaica. I'm going to be on the beach. So yeah, I want my toes to look kind of good, right? Not just my shaky hands on there, but if you're doing something special or it's your birthday, maybe doing it then, but limiting, to not every week, every 2 weeks, or even every month. Now, when it comes to our food, we do want to strive to eat as organic as possible, or at least following the Dirty Dozen, the Clean 15. If you haven't heard about this, is our wonderful list provided by the Environmental Working Group, or EWG. Every year they come out with the foods that are going to be the Dirty Dozen. So these are the ones that you definitely want to get organic, because they use a lot of pesticides in the non-organic varieties, versus the Clean 15, which are the foods that don't necessarily use a lot of pesticides or any at all, because they're such a robust food. So you can, mix and match and reduce your overall exposure. And then we want to limit or eliminate those processed foods. Unnatural chemicals and dyes are found in those foods regularly. And again, that's just one more thing we're adding to our body to have to deal with. So if you really want, bright, glowing, vibrant skin, you want thick, luscious, healthy hair, these are small things that we can do. And realizing that toxic cup, right? If it's overflowing, that's more your body has to deal with, and less resource available to grow and to thrive. So the more we start reducing, the nail polish and the personal care products that we're using are not so great, and the foods that we're eating are not so great, and removing certain, jewelries and dental amalgams, and maybe getting filtered water and getting an air filter. And if we have a home that's maybe a little moldy or has some toxic metals, we're reducing that. We're detoxing these things out. We start to reduce our toxic burden, reduce what's in our toxic cup, and our body can now use that resource to grow and to thrive. So that's what I have for you today, guys. Tell me, what have you maybe been doing that you didn't realize was toxic, and how do you plan to maybe go forward and make this less of a burden on your body? I want to see your reactions in the comments. So definitely drop me a comment, drop me a like, subscribe for more content, guys. Again, if you feel like, I don't want to add it to the comments, you can always ask me personally at askdrjazz@gmail.com. If you'd like to work with me, because I'd love to work with you, please visit me at www.drjasmine.com. All right, guys. May God bless you and your health. Bye.